See, we are coming to the most important part of the lesson and the most repeatedly asked the concept in the board examination. It's actually determination of equilibrium level of income and employment. AD is equal to AS approach and by John Maynard Keynes. See, before starting this, you can have a recall of aggregate demand and aggregate supply. Already the concepts are introduced to the children, so they very well know what is aggregate demand and what is aggregate supply. Just go for a recall of these two. Then you have to discuss what is this equilibrium. What is equilibrium actually? That concept has to be thorough to the children. What does equilibrium mean?
Demand and supply equal, the state of rest or balance. Equilibrium refers to.
No, I'm just asking the meaning of the term equilibrium. Please don't connect with the chapter. Just tell me what is equilibrium.
A balanced one, maybe.
Yeah. Equilibrium is a state of rest, a position from which no further change is appreciated, either decline or increase. That state of rest you call equilibrium. Can you give me some real life examples to make it simple for children to understand? If you say state of rest, some children will not understand. Can you give me some examples outside the subject?
Sir, seesaw.
Seesaw, it is.
If two person
I
with
do
same
not know
weight
how
are
to relate,
sitting.
ma'am.
Weight
Okay.
measuring. Weight measuring instrument is there.
Okay. Both are equal. Okay. See, we can give some examples like, see a person. A person is appointed the CEO of a company. And he is happy with his current position. He neither wants to go to any other higher position, nor he wants to come down. So we can say he is in a state of rest. That is actually equilibrium, state of rest, a position from which no further change is needed. You don't require to go higher or you don't require to come down. So that state of rest is what we call equilibrium. So what is actually equilibrium level of income and employment? It is a position which the economy reaches from where we don't want to increase production, or we don't want to generate more income, or we don't want to provide more employment. Neither we don't want to reduce the income or employment. So you are reaching a state of rest, a position from where you don't want any further increase or decrease. So according to J.M. Keynes, an economy reaches equilibrium when its aggregate demand and aggregate supply are equal. See, what is being produced is demanded. What is being supplied to the market is demanded in the market. So there will not be any inflation or any deflation. So such a situation is what J.M. Keynes call equilibrium level of income and the employment. Aggregate demands and aggregate supply are equal. AD and AS are equal. What is being provided by the producers to the market and what is being demanded by the consumers in the market are equal. So neither you want to increase production, you want to reduce production. So such a situation is what we call equilibrium level of income and employment according to John Maynard Keynes. So we write it as AD is equal to AS. Children already know aggregate demand curve and aggregate supply curve. We have already discussed that. So they know how to draw aggregate demand curve and aggregate supply curve. So you can just call a child and ask that child to draw this equilibrium level of income and employment. They can draw the 45-degree line starting from the origin. What is it called?
Aggregate supply.
Aggregate supply curve. Then they can draw the C plus I curve. C plus I curve is nothing but our aggregate demand curve. It will start from the positive side of the y-axis and it will be sloping upward from left to right. So this diagram, here I have drawn the consumption curve also just below that. Then we have the C plus I curve, consumption plus investment curve. It is nothing but aggregate demand curve. So at point E, you can tell to them at point E, AD and AS are equal. Aggregate demand and aggregate supply are equal. So M will be the equilibrium level of income. So this is what we call AD is equal to AS approach. A schedule can also be discussed. See here in the schedule, we have income, consumption, saving, investment, AD, AS, and finally the conclusion. See at 0 level of income, consumption is 10. What is that consumption called?
Autonomous consumption.
So saving will be minus 10. They can derive all these things, you know. If you can give income, investment, and consumption, the other columns, the children can derive. From these columns, they can derive the other ones. See, income is 0, consumption is 10. So automatically saving will be minus 10. It is this saving. Investment is autonomous, we know. So aggregate demand, that is C plus I. Consumption plus investment will be 20. 10 plus 10, 20. Aggregate supply is 0. The same income only, aggregate supply will also be there. Or you can write it as C plus, yes, consumption plus saving. Consumption is 10, saving is minus 10. So 10 plus minus 10 will be 0. So in this way, table can be derived. Conclusion you are writing, you know, in the first case, aggregate demand is greater than aggregate supply. So economy is not at equilibrium because AD and AS are not equal. Then income becomes 10, consumption is 50, saving is minus 5. We know the difference is minus 5 actually. Then investment is 10. So AD is C plus I, that is 25. AS is C plus S, that is 15 plus minus 5, it is 10. Still AD is greater than AS. But when you come to this 40, income level 40, we find that aggregate demand and aggregate supply are equal. The economy is at the equilibrium. Now the biggest question is, you can take this question to the children and find out. They may not be able to answer, but ask these questions to children. If AD and AS are not equal, what will happen? AD is greater than AS. What will happen? Teachers, can you tell? AD is greater than AS. What would happen? Aggregate demand greater
So
than aggregate supply.
Yes, if demand is more and supply is less, means it will increase the price.
Inflation, sir.
Demand.
Sir, Keynes always speaks about underemployment equilibrium.
So initially
there are-
supply
there
will
are-
increase.
Yeah, there are resources left out. See that inflation and all will come if the economy is at full employment level. The economy is not at full employment level. Keynesian equilibrium is actually underemployment equilibrium. There are still resources to be utilized. Now tell me what would happen if AD is greater than AS.
So we have to increase our production, sir.
Now, how will the production be increased? What will make the producers to think about increasing production?
Actually,
More demand.
due to demand,
More
they will
demand.
increase their production, sir.
Demand.
Okay, you are just losing a connecting link there. Please listen. See, aggregate demand is more, aggregate supply is less. What will happen? Inventories will fall. Stock will fall. Because demand is
Yes.
more, supply is less. The sellers will take products from the godowns or warehouses to their shops. Inventories
Yes.
will fall. Inventories means stock. Stock
Yes,
will fall.
will get.
Yeah.
Yes.
And this
Then we
will
have
give
to
a warning signal to the producers.
production. Yes, sir.
Yes, your stock is falling. You have to increase production. So what will they do? They will increase production.
Increase employment.
Yes, aggregate. They will employ more and more people because economy is at underemployment. resources are left out. So they will employ more resources, including manpower, and increase the production, and this will go on. So supply will increase, production will increase, supply will increase, and this will go on until AD and AS become equal. When AD and AS are equal, economy reaches equilibrium. That's all. So listen once again. AD is greater than AS. More demand, less supply. So inventories will fall, stock will fall. Inventories will fall, that is stock will fall. So this is giving a warning signal to the producers. See, our stock is falling down. We need to do something. We need to increase production. Let us employ some more workers. Let us make use of some more raw materials. Let us increase production because demand is very high. Stocks are falling. Let us increase production. They will increase production. As a result of that, aggregate supply will increase. And they will keep on increasing production until these two are matched. AD and AS are matched. Economy reaches equilibrium. Any doubt in this?
Yes, sir.
No, sir.
Clear,
Okay.
clear.
Now let us think about the opposite situation. AD is less than AS. What will happen?
Stock will
Just
increase, so they
opposite
will
to-
stop the
Very good,
production.
very good.
Stock will increase.
Yes, inventories will pile up. Inventories will pile up. That means the godowns will be overflowing because more supply, less demand. You are bringing 1,000 units to the market. Only 700 units are sold. So 300 units go to your stock, your inventory. Your godowns will be filled. This gives a warning signal to the producers. See, the stock is increasing. The godowns are getting filled. Let us reduce production. So what will they do? They will reduce production. So when they reduce production, what will happen? Supply will fall. And this will go on until supply reaches or supply becomes equal to aggregate demand. So this, children, have to be very thorough. Mostly the question is asked about this adjustment mechanism. Separately they ask, if aggregate demand is greater than aggregate supply, what will be the consequences? Or what will be the adjustment mechanism? I think that part is clear.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Now, we have one more approach to explain equilibrium level of income and employment. It is called S is equal to I approach. Saving is equal to investment approach. Actually, it is not a different approach. It is derived from AD is equal to AS approach. See, I have shown it in the PPT here. We know that AD and AS are equal. Aggregate demand and aggregate supply are equal at equilibrium level. So this is equilibrium level. Economy is at equilibrium because AD and AS are equal. What is AD actually? Aggregate demand. It is C plus I, we know.
C plus
Consumption
I.
plus investment. What is AS actually?
C plus S, sir.
C
Consumption
plus
plus
S.
savings.
Consumption plus yes. See, both the side we can cancel C. Both the sides in an equation, both the sides, if the same variable is there, that can be cancelled. So you cancel C on both the sides. What do you get?
Supply equal to.
S is equal to I is equal to S, or S is equal to I. So this approach is actually derived from AD is equal to AS approach. Aggregate demand is equal to aggregate supply, we write. Aggregate demand, we write it as C plus I, consumption plus investment. Aggregate supply, we write it as C plus S, consumption plus saving. So we are cancelling. It's an equation actually. Both the sides, it is equal. So both the sides, if it is equal and if same variable is there in both the sides, that can be cut. It is allowed mathematically. So C can be cancelled on both the sides. So we get I is equal to S or S is equal to I approach. This you can teach the children by asking questions to them. Ask them what is AD. They will say C plus I. Write it down. C plus I is equal to. Ask them what is AS. C plus S. Ask them, can we cancel the C on both the sides? They have better mathematical knowledge. They will say, yes, we can cancel. Then what do we get? We get S is equal to I. So S is equal to I approach is derived from AD is equal to AS approach. The same schedule you can show to them. See, in the same schedule, you can see that when AD and AS are equal, S and I are also equal. See, at 40 level of income, aggregate demand is 40, aggregate supply is 40, economy is at equilibrium. The same level you can see saving and investment are also equal. S and I are also equal. So if AD and AS are equal, S and I also will be equal. This schedule will help you to make them understand it better. Now you see the curve. Curve, you know, all these curves are known to them. Nothing new. So you can ask, you can give a chance to them, ask them to draw S is equal to I. They may or may not be able to do, at least one child may be able to do sometimes. Here we know that here we have that the AD is equal to AS. We have the AD curve and we have the income curve or AS curve, and at this point both are equal. The same you take down, you can see the saving curve, it starts from the negative side of the y-axis because there is this saving, and we have drawn the investment curve. Here one mistake children generally make. They take, sometimes they take this point as equilibrium point. This is one of the common mistakes which the children make while drawing this diagram. Actually, this is not the equilibrium point. We have to draw the investment curve, which is a horizontal line parallel to x-axis. And the point at which saving curve and investment curve are intersecting. In this diagram, it is point Q. So at point Q, the economy is at equilibrium. At the same level of income, we know AD and AS are also equal. So what you can do, you know, you can tell them first to draw this equilibrium. Okay, let them draw this first, and connecting to this, to make this same, they can draw the AD-AS curve. Any doubt in the diagram?
No, sir.
Children will be able to do at least one or two. Others may not be, most of the children will not be able to draw, but they know all these diagrams, so they will understand it easier. Now, let us come to the next question. What will happen is S is greater than I? What will be the adjustment mechanism? S is greater than I. What will happen? How the economy will reach equilibrium? Yes, Sudarshan sir, please.
Sir, if S is more than I means savings, people's mentality of savings is more than investment. So due to this, productions will be less. So again, it is known as aggregate supply less than aggregate demand.
Okay, sir.
So this is the situation, sir, when S is more than I.
Okay, anybody else?
Due to increasing saving, marginal propensity to consume will decrease. Marginal propensity to consume will
Just
decrease.
don't complicate, ma'am. Just say that consumption falls.
Yes, sir.
Okay, then
Consumption,
you are in the right track. Tell me, consumption falls.
consumption, it will go low. So the bank, it will reduce the rate of interest. So people, those who are having invested money, they will discourage to invest into bank. Am I correct, sir?
Sorry to disagree with you, ma'am. Okay, anybody else? Saving is greater than investment. How will the economy go back to equilibrium?
Maybe decrease in demand so
Then-
that there is greater than decrease in supply.
Okay.
Maybe
You are all closer to the exact explanation. Okay, let us see what will happen. Please listen carefully. This is an area where many teachers have doubt actually. Listen, S is greater than I. Saving is greater than investment. It means in the economy, people are saving more. Am I right? People are saving more. If people are saving more, their consumption will be less. So consumption is less. If consumption is less, what will be aggregate demand? Will it be higher or lower?
So lower,
Lower.
sir.
Lower.
I think, sir, I said the same, sir. Aggregate,
You
so
get
savings
till,
is,
till there you are right, sir. So
yes, sir.
aggregate demand is low. If aggregate demand is low, what will happen to inventories?
Increase,
It
sir.
will increase.
Inventories will increase.
Yes, sir.
What
The
will
same
happen
thing we
if
have.
inventories increase? What will the producers do?
They will reduce the
less.
production and
They will reduce
unemployment.
production, and the aggregate supply and aggregate demand will become
Equal.
equal. When AD and AS are equal, S and I also will be equal. Correct, no? If
Sir?
AD and AS are equal, S and I also will be
Yes, sir.
equal. The
Okay, sir.
economy will
Correct,
reach
sir.
back to
Yes.
equilibrium.
Yes, sir.
So let us
Yes,
go
sir.
in this path. Listen carefully. S is greater than I. Saving is greater than I. Investment. It means people are saving more. It means people are consuming less. If people are consuming less, aggregate demand will be less. If aggregate demand is less, inventories will pile up. The producers will reduce production. They will reduce production, so supply will fall. Supply will fall until AD and AS become equal. So when AD and AS are equal, S and I also will be equal. Economy will reach back to equilibrium. You want me to repeat, or is it clear?
Understood.
Yes,
Repeat,
sir. Clear,
So
sir.
clear, sir. Clear, sir.
Now just opposite. Just opposite. Saving is less than investment. What will be the adjustment mechanism? Jayanti ma'am, please.
Yes, sir. Saving. Investment is more, their consumption will increase. So aggregate demand will increase.
Hmm.
Inventory, due
Hmm.
to aggregate demand,
Hmm.
inventory, they have to increase. So the producer,
Inventories
they
will
will
fall.
increase the
Inventories will
production.
fall. Yeah. Yes, they will increase production. Supply will increase.
Ah.
AD and AS will become equal, and S and I also will
Yes, sir.
become
Yes, sir.
automatically equal.
Yes,
That's
sir.
all. Very simple it is. So saving is less than investment. What will happen? Less saving, more consumption. More consumption means higher aggregate demand. Inventories will fall. Producers will increase production. Supply will increase. And the AD and AS will become equal. If AD and AS are equal, S and I also will be equal. In this way, the explanation can be given. I hope it is clear.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Here I have written it. You can just read it once. Suppose saving is greater than investment. High saving means lower consumption. Lower consumption leads to fall in aggregate demand. Inventories will increase. This will make the producers to reduce production. Aggregate supply falls and it becomes equal to aggregate demand. When AD and AS are equal, S and I also will be equal. This is the first case. Second case, suppose saving is less than investment. S is less than I. Low saving means higher consumption. Higher consumption leads to rise in aggregate demand. Inventories will fall. This will encourage the producers to increase production. Aggregate supply increases and it becomes equal to aggregate demand. When AD and AS are equal, S and I also will be equal. I think it is clear to you.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
No
This
clear,
is,
sir.
a very important one, repeatedly asked one. Either AD is equal to AS or S is equal to I. Sometimes they will not ask you to explain the complete one. They will ask if saving is greater than investment, what will be the adjustment mechanism, or how will the economy go back to equilibrium level? So children have to explain this. Thank you, teachers. Next, actually the Keynesian multiplier. See, Keynesian multiplier, Keynes introduced mainly to give a solution to Great Depression. See, I already told you J.M. Keynes wanted government interference in the economy. Actually, his idea was totally against the laissez-faire policy or theory propounded by the classical and neoclassical economists. So Keynes wanted the governmental interference in order to save the economy from great agrarian or great depression. So Keynes said that a small change in investment will lead to a big change in income. Suppose you invest 100 crore. Income will increase not by 100 crore, but more than 100 crore. So Keynes wanted government to invest. One important statement is there from J.M. Keynes to save America and other Western countries from Great Depression. He said, please invest and try to give employment to the people. He gave an example. You call some people, some unemployed people, ask them to dig a pit. Just ask them to dig some pit. Pay them money. Call another group of people, ask them to fill it up. The pit is already made. No, ask them to fill it up. Give them money. Can anyone say, why did Keynes say so? Is it not a foolish thing? You are calling some people, asking them to dig pits. You are giving them money. Then you are calling another group of people, asking them to fill it up. You are giving them money. Is it a foolish thing? Why did
No,
Keynes
sir.
say so? Yeah.
So
Tell
it
me.
will increase the purchasing power of the people, and again the investment will be multiplied. What they are getting as an income, they will spend on some other goods, and it
Very
will
good.
goes on. And
Very good, very
obviously,
Yes. See, you are calling some people, you are asking them to dig pit, you are giving them money. You are calling another group of people, asking them to fill the pit, you are giving them money. What will they do with this money? They will go to market. They will buy goods and services. Aggregate demand will increase, consumption will increase, aggregate demand will increase. This will motivate the producers to increase production. More people will get employment. When they are increasing production, they will employ more people. More income will be generated. Economy can slowly go back to the equilibrium position. Economy can slowly go back or slowly come out of the depression. So this is what J.M. Keynes advocated, and this is what the United States of America implemented in order to save the economy from Great Depression. It's not like calling people and giving them employment. Government is interfering. Government is investing. Government is giving income to the people. And with that money, people going to the market. With that money, people buying goods and services. Aggregate demand increasing. And if aggregate demand is increasing, economy will come out of depression. Depression is caused due to lack of demand. So what is this Keynesian multiplier actually? It is the rate of change in income due to change in investment. Say 100 crore you are investing. How much will be the change in income? That ratio is what you call by the name investment multiplier. Rate of change in income due to change in investment. So you can write it as delta. How will you write it?
Delta Y by delta I.
I, very good. Delta Y by delta I. It is actually the Keynesian multiplier. How much change will be there in income due to a change in investment? You are making a change in investment, delta I, say 100 crore. Because of that, how many times the income will be increased? That is what we call investment multiplier, delta Y by delta I. Or another formula is 1 by 1 minus marginal propensity to consume. 1 minus MPC is nothing but MPS, because MPC plus MPS is equal to 1, we already know. So 1 by MPS, these three formulae can be used for calculating investment multiplier. Can any one of you explain how does this one multiplier work? Say for example,
sir.
100 crore invested. How will it work? Yes, sir, please.
Sir, from that 100 crore, so based upon the MPC of economy,
Say
so how
MPC
much
is
people want to
0.5.
consume?
MPC is
So if the
0.5.
MPC is more,
Can you explain that
Sorry,
working
sir.
of multiplier, sir? Can you explain? Suppose you are explaining multiplier to the students. How will you explain, sir, please?
Yes, sir.
Think
So
that
that's
we are
the
all
basic.
students. In such a way, you explain.
Yes, sir. So think in this economy, we have invested 100 crores. So one person's expenditure, so that investment may be the
Very good,
income
very
of
good,
other
excellent.
person.
Yeah.
So the person who receiving that income based upon their consumption pattern, it will multiply. If one person is receiving income 100 and he is spending 50, now 50 will goes to some other person. Balance 50 he is saving. So if MPC is when MPC in economy is going less, then the multiplier will be less. If MPC is more, then the multiplier will be more. So we have to invest our money. We have to spend our money in that economy. Then only the money multiplier will be more.
Okay, sir. Okay. Anybody else? Anyone else? Can
Sir,
you explain
sir-
the?
Sir, may I?
Yes,
Sir,
ma'am, please.
if income is 100 and MPC is
Not
0.5
income, ma'am.
as you,
Investment.
okay, sir.
Investment, am I
Yes,
right?
sir. If investment is 100 and
Hmm.
suppose MPC is 0.5.
Yes.
uh,
Proceed, ma'am.
Yes, sir. So what is invested, that means there will it will bring about an increase in income of rupees 100 initially, suppose if we are assuming, sir. So,
Yes,
and
yes.
if investment and multiplier is 0.5 means only 50 will be consumed, rest 50 rupees will be saved. So if 50 rupees is being consumed, in the next stage, that is in stage 2, this 50 rupees will lead to increase in income.
Okay,
Is it, sir?
this will continue. Okay, very good, ma'am. Very good. You are
Yes.
right. See, few things we have to keep in mind. We have to make the children understand before going on to the mechanism of multiplier. Always increase in investment leads to increase in income. Okay. Say, for example, 100 crore you are investing means 100 crore income will be generated because government's expenditure is people's income. Suppose that government is investing 100 crore. That 100 crore, what I said, government is investing 100 crores. 100 crore investment will lead to 100 crore income. Because suppose government is spending 100 crore to bridge or to make a bridge. What will happen to that 100 crore? It will get divided into rent, wage, interest, and profit, and it will go to the people. So this point you have to make them understand. 100 crore investment leads to 100 crore income. Okay, it is like every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. No, the same thing, same way. If 100 crore investment is done, 100 crore income will be generated. So increasing income leads to increase in consumption expenditure, that we already know. And one man's consumption is another man's income. Suppose I am a consumer, I pay some money, I buy something from another person. For me, it is consumption expenditure. For the other man, it is income. So all these things you make it clear to them, then you can come to the working of the multiplier. Here you see this schedule. Delta I is 100 crore. Delta I means change in investment. MPC is 0.5. I am taking 0.5 for easy calculation. Okay. It can be 0.75 or it can be 0.25, something like that. Here I am taking 0.5 as MPC, and the delta I, change in investment, is 100 crore. We already know that 100 crore investment leads to 100 crore income because government's expenditure is people's income. If government spend 100 crore, government invest 100 crore, it will get divided into rent, wage, interest, and profit, and it will go into the hands of the people. Now, out of this 100 crore, how much they will consume and how much they will save?
50 crores they will consume, sir, and 50 crores.
They will
50
save. Why
yeah,
50
50
crore?
consume, 50 they will save, sir.
Why 50-50?
Because MPC
Because of
is equal to
MPC.
0.5.
Yeah, MPC is equal to 0.5. That's the reason. As MPC, marginal propensity to consume is 0.5. So 100 into 0.5, 50. So 50 will be consumed and 50 will be saved. 50 crore consumption leads to 50 crore income. Why? 50 crore consumption leads to 50 crore income. Why?
People are consuming means they are purchasing something which is the income of others people.
Yeah,
One
one
man's
man-
income is a
One man's
income is
consumption expenditure is another man's
man's
income.
income.
You can tell to the students, see, students are paying fees. It is consumption expenditure for them. But for the school, it is income. You are buying some vegetables from a farmer. For you, it is consumption expenditure. But the farmer gets an equal amount of income. So 50 crore consumption leads to 50 crore income. So out of this 50 crore, 25 will be consumed and 25 will be saved. Why?
Because of the same MPC, sir.
Yeah, MPC is 0.5.
0.
So again, here 25 consumption, 25 crore consumption leads to 25 crore income. Because we know one man's consumption expenditure is another man's income. From this 25 crore income, 12.5 will be consumed and 12.5 will be saved because MPC is 0.5. So 12.5 consumption leads to 12.5 income. Out of that, 6.25 will be consumed and 6.25 will be saved. This will continue until where?
It's infinity, sir. It goes on.
No, it won't go to infinity. Until change in consumption becomes 0. This will go on until delta C, change in consumption, becomes 0. And how much income will be generated? How much income will be generated due to this investment? For that, we have to find out K. In this case, how will you find out K?
So it's 2 times, sir. Okay, 1
Yeah.
divided by.
K is equal to 1 by 1 minus MPC. That
MPC.
formula we can use. So K is equal to 1 by 1 minus MPC, 1 minus 0.5, that is 0.5. So 1 by 0.5 is actually 2.
2
So how
times.
much income will be generated? 200 will be generated.
200.
100 will be consumed and 100 will be saved because MPC is 0.5. So like this, a schedule can be prepared. And remember, you have to give a lot of practice in this because sometimes in the exam, they will give initial investments and they will give the MPC. Based on that, children will have to prepare the schedule and explain. It may be sometimes say 500 crore, 0.75 MPC. So please don't make them by heart this schedule given by you. Children should be able to prepare a schedule by themselves. For that, some practice has to be given. You give with a different delta I and different MPC. 4 or 5 problems you give. MPC is 0.25, MPC is 0.75, MPC is 0.5. Income is 100 or 200 or 300 or 50 or whatever it may be. Like this, a number of problems you give to them, make them prepare the schedule, make them explain. Because in the exam, suppose they simply ask, explain Keynesian multiplier with the help of a schedule, means they can write the same schedule. But sometimes it will not be like that. Some of the question papers we come across, like they will give the initial investment, they will give the MPC, then they will ask us to explain the working of the Keynesian multiplier. I hope it is clear.
Yes, sir.
Any doubt in this?
No, sir.
Okay. So that's all about the Keynesian multiplier. The next concept, important concept which we have to learn is this inflationary gap or excess demand. What is actually inflationary gap? Here, before proceeding to this, talk to children about underemployment equilibrium, full employment equilibrium, and all those things. Keynes speaks
Yes, sir.
about underemployment equilibrium. That is why that mechanism of adjusting AD and AS works. But when we come to this inflationary gap or excess demand, we assume that the economy is at full employment. So that adjustment will not work here. So excess demand or inflationary gap is nothing but AD greater than AS and the economy is at full employment. So that mechanism of getting AD-AS adjusted will not work. Because no more resources. See, aggregate demand is greater than aggregate supply. We know inventories will fall. But the producer cannot increase production. Why producer cannot increase production? Why the producer cannot increase production though AD is greater than AS?
Because it is full employment.
Yeah, economy is at full employment level. He doesn't have resources. That situation is called inflationary gap. Your children may ask, when you say AD is greater than AS, we call it inflationary gap. Children may ask, sir, why that AD and AS will not get adjusted? There we have to stress the economy is at a full employment level. The producer cannot increase production. He doesn't have any more resources to be utilized. So what is actually inflationary gap? It's a situation in which aggregate demand is greater than aggregate supply at full employment level. Is that clear, teachers? Any doubt in this?
Yes, sir. Sir, one doubt, sir.
Please.
Sir, here first we have to explain that ex ante ex post that concept, sir, or we have to explain this first and then
that
go to
concepts in the beginning itself you explain to the children. You know, Keynes always.
Yes, sir. Yes.
You can tell that Keynes always speaks about ex ante concepts only.
Yes, sir.
Keynesian theory, all concepts are actually ex ante concepts, planned one, expected one. Keynes doesn't speak about ex post. So few things we have to keep in mind, you know, Keynes does not speak about long run. Keynes does not speak about ex post. Keynes speaks only about the short run equilibrium and Keynes speaks only about the ex ante concepts. That in the beginning of the chapter itself, you make your children understand that.
Yes.
Okay. Now see this diagram. Here you know that economy, here you find AD and AS. Economy is at full employment level at OM. That means beyond OM, the economy cannot produce. Economy is at full employment at OM. But at OM, we know that AD is greater than AS. You see, this is AD curve. I think my arrow you can see. Can you see the arrow moving?
Yes, sir. Yes.
So this is actually AD curve. This is actually our AS curve, 45-degree line. See, this is OM, I mean full employment level. Beyond this, the economy cannot go because economy is at full employment level. Here we find this difference. AD is here, AS is here. This gap is what we call inflationary gap. Then what is this AD1? I have given another curve called AD1. What is that?
Sir, actual demand, sir.
Now, actual demand is AD. AD1 is desired demand. That means,
Sorry, this said.
yeah, if AD1 were to be the actual one, economy would have been in equilibrium. Correct now? If AD1 were to be the actual aggregate demand, the economy would have been in equilibrium. But AD1 is only desired one for equilibrium, full employment equilibrium. We can put this definition in another way also, you know. Inflationary gap is the difference between actual aggregate demand and desired aggregate demand for full employment equilibrium. This gap, this AD1 is not the real aggregate demand. It is the desired one. I mean, if it were AD1, if aggregate demand were AD1, the economy would have been at full employment equilibrium. But actually, this is not the aggregate demand. This one is the aggregate demand. It is greater than aggregate supply at full employment level. So this gap is what we call inflationary gap. Is that clear, teachers?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Any doubt?
No,
No.
sir.
Okay. So we can define in another way also. We can say that aggregate demand is greater than aggregate supply at the full employment level of income. This is the easiest one for children. Another definition is, it is the difference between actual aggregate demand and desired aggregate demand when the economy is at a full employment level. So two different ways we can define. Now, why does inflationary gap arise? Maybe due to higher consumption by households, because of that aggregate demand may be higher, or maybe due to higher investment by the firms, or maybe due to governmental expenditure, because if government spend more, people's income will increase, aggregate demand will increase, or maybe due to decrease in taxes. If taxes are reduced, what will happen? What will happen if taxes are reduced?
Disposable income will be more.
Excellent. Disposable income of the people will increase. And if disposable income increases, what will happen? People will consume
Consumption
more.
will increase.
Yeah, consumption will
Consumption.
be more, and
More consumption.
automatically aggregate demand will also increase. So these are the causes of inflationary gap. Consumption
Sir,
increases.
excuse me, sir.
Yes, sir. Tell me, sir.
Sir, in this deficit financing, we can write, sir. One point is the deficit financing.
Yes, sir. That is, say, increase in government expenditure and decrease in tax. That is nothing but deficit financing.
Okay, sir. So separate
Government-
point given, sir. That's right.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, in these 2 points, what we mention is nothing but deficit financing. Correct, no? The government is spending more. Government is collecting less. It is deficit financing. Am I right? Government has to borrow. That borrowed money has to be spent. So that point is already explained in point 3 and 4. Do you agree with me, sir?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, very good, sir. Yes, deficit financing separately also you can write. Now, how to control together we will discuss along with the deflationary gap. Can you tell me what will be the effects of inflationary gap? What will be the effects?
Sir,
How
there is no
inflationary gap
change
will
in
affect?
Yes, sir. There is no change in employment and production, sir.
Yes,
So,
why there
By
will not be any
increasing
change
the
in,
price,
yeah, why there will
as
not
because
be
it
any
is a
change?
full employment level, sir, we are
Yeah,
unable to
very
increase
simple.
the
Economy is
employment.
already at a full employment level. Even if the aggregate demand is higher, production
Understood.
is not going to increase. You are right. Excellent, sir. Now, prices will increase. As you rightly said, prices will increase because demand is greater than supply. Now, after going to inflationary gap, we can straight away come to deflationary gap. It is just opposite situation. What is deflationary gap? Aggregate demand less than aggregate supply when the economy is at a full employment level. That has to be mentioned. Economy is at full employment level. Aggregate demand less than aggregate supply. We call it deficient demand, or we call it deflationary gap. Now the diagram, let us see. OM is actually the equilibrium level of income. AD is actually aggregate demand, actual aggregate demand. AIS is actually aggregate supply. So at OM level of income, AIS is greater than AD. So this gap is what we call deflationary gap. Here also we have AD1. AD1 actually desired aggregate demand. That means if aggregate demand were to be AD1, the economy would have been at equilibrium. So deficient demand also we can explain like the difference between desired aggregate demand and actual aggregate demand when the economy is at full employment. Is deficient demand clear, or any doubt regarding this?
No doubt, sir.
Clear.
Okay. Causes of deflationary gap. Just opposite of what we said for the other one. Here we can say fall in consumption expenditure, fall in investment expenditure, fall in government expenditure, increase in taxes. Consumption falls, aggregate demand will fall. So AD will become less than AS. investment falls, aggregate demand will fall. So AD will become less than AS. Governmental expenditure falls, so people's income falls, aggregate demand will fall. Taxes are increased. When taxes are increased, the disposable income of the people will fall, aggregate demand will fall because consumption falls. So these are the causes. What will be the effects? Can you tell me?
So here the change in employment, sir.
Yeah, yeah. Production will
Consumption is
fall.
less, stock
Yes.
increases.
Yes,
So
yes. Very good.
yes, sir.
Production
Production will fall,
fall,
then
employment will
fall.
fall.
Employment changes.
Yes.
Price
Very
also
good.
falls.
Prices also will fall because supply is greater than income. Okay. Now we can come to how to correct this inflationary gap and the deflationary gap. See, to correct the inflationary gap and deflationary gap, two different policies are followed. One is called monetary policy and the other one is called fiscal policy.
Fiscal.
Yeah. What is monetary policy and what is fiscal policy?
The step taken by
Money
government,
value.
it is fiscal,
Hmm.
and the step taken by RBI, it is monetary.
Yeah. So monetary policy means policy connected with the money and financial
Money value.
institutions.
Yes.
Policy connected with the money and financial institutions. We call monetary policy. What is actually fiscal policy? Policy connected with the government's income and expenditure, taxation.
Direct and
expenditure.
indirect taxes.
Yes, all taxation policy,
All tax.
expenditure policy we call fiscal policy. So both the monetary policy and fiscal policy can be used in order to control inflationary gap and the deflationary gap. These children already learned this monetary policy. They already learned in chapter money and the banking. So just a recollection is enough. The same concepts are coming in the chapter money and banking also. Am I right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Monetary policy is divided into two: quantitative measures and the qualitative measures. Can you tell me what are the quantitative measures that can be adopted?
Bank rate policy, open market operation, variable cash reserve ratio, repo rate, reserve repo rate.
Excellent, excellent. Okay. The first one is bank rate. What is bank rate?
Bank rate is
Sir.
the rate the central bank
Hmm.
give
Hmm.
loan to commercial bank
Hmm.
at long term.
Okay, okay, very good. See, commercial banks may borrow money from central bank in order to meet their long-term credit requirements. Interest charged on these loans you call bank rate. See, SBI, for example, SBI can borrow from RBI in order to meet, it's a long-term loan. It is to meet their long-term credit requirement. So what will happen? RBI will collect interest for these loans. That interest is called bank rate. Okay. Tell me, what should we do with the bank rate during inflation and what should we do with the bank rate during deflation?
During
Inflation bank
inflation, it
increase.
should be increased,
Ah,
whereas in deflation, it should be decreased.
very good, very good. Why should it be increased? How we do the help in
Increasing means
reducing-
taking loans becomes more costly, or rather people will prefer to keep money in bank rather than consuming, purchasing. So,
money.
so as the result of it, what will happen? That money in the hands of the people will decrease, and so their disposable, so money in the hands of the people will decrease. So the aggregate demand will also decrease.
Excellent, excellent, fantastic. Okay. She has rightly said, you know, when bank rate is high, the commercial banks will be reluctant to take loan from the central bank. So commercial banks lending capacity will fall. And as bank rate is higher, commercial banks will also charge a higher rate of interest. So people will also be, people also will not take much loans. Money supply will fall, consumption will fall, aggregate demand will fall, and inflation will be controlled. Just opposite will happen if bank rate is reduced. If bank rate is reduced, commercial banks will take more loan and they will lend more to the public at lower interest. So people will take more loans, money supply will increase, consumption will increase, aggregate demand will increase, and deflation will be controlled. So bank rate. Then we have repo rate. What is the difference between many students, Actually, I remember some years back, I went to Chennai in order to participate in the board evaluation. So the question asked was repo rate. But many children have given the definition of bank rate. But finally, the head examiners told us, even if they have explained the bank rate, it is closer, so you can give mark. So we have given mark. So I'm just sharing an experience actually. Children get confused between bank rate and repo rate. What is the difference between these two?
Long term and short term.
That's all.
Short term and
Short
long
term is repo rate.
Yes.
short,
Repo rate is short term.
short-term
And
borrowing.
the bank rate is for long-term loan. That is the only difference. The remaining things are same. Repo rate will be increased during inflation and it will be reduced during deflation. The effects are also same. Now we have reverse repo rate. What is reverse repo rate?
The rate at which commercial banks, they will deposit their excess money in RBI.
Yeah, yes.
Reserve Bank
See,
of
actually, the commercial banks can stock their surplus money with the RBI. For that, RBI pays some interest. That interest is what we call reverse repo rate.
Reverse.
See, commercial banks are having a lot of fund. They can stock that fund with the RBI. RBI will pay a reward, interest, and that interest is called a reverse repo rate. What should we do with
Sir.
the reverse? Tell me, sir.
Yes, sir. One doubt, sir.
Ah.
Actually, students used to ask the doubt on this reverse repo rate, sir. What they are asking that, can we write like this? RBI is borrowing from commercial banks. Can we write
sir.
like
they
that?
can, they can. Both are correct.
Because
Either you can say commercial banks will stock their money with RBI, or they can write
Yes.
it as RBI will borrow money from commercial bank. Nothing wrong in it.
Yes, sir.
Okay? Both are
Yes.
correct.
Yes. Thank you. Thanks.
Okay. So let us come back to the point. What should we do with the reverse repo rate during inflation and during deflation?
So again, the reverse repo rate will increase, sir, in inflation, and during deflation.
What will
it
happen if it is increased, sir? Can you explain?
Sir, yes, sir. If RBI is giving more interest for the commercial banks deposits, commercial banks are willing to deposit their money in RBI. Due to this, inflation will be controlled.
Very
If
good.
reverse repo rate is decreased, then commercial banks will not show interest in depositing in RBI.
Suppose
due to this
RBI, yeah,
deflation.
very good, sir. You are right. Suppose RBI is giving higher interest. Commercial banks will think it is better to keep money with the RBI than giving to the public. It is more safe. You need not worry about collecting the money back and all those things. Safer and good interest they are giving. So commercial banks will keep more money with the RBI. So money available with the commercial bank to lend to the public will fall. That means their lending capacity will fall. They will give less loan. Money supply will fall, consumption will fall, aggregate demand will fall, inflation will be controlled. On the other hand, RBI reduces reverse repo rate. Commercial banks will think, why should we give money to RBI? They are giving very low interest. Instead, we can give to the public. Public are ready to give more interest. So they will lend less to RBI. They will lend more to the commercial banks. Sorry, to the public. Money supply will increase, consumption will increase, aggregate demand will increase, and deflation will be controlled. This chain of effects, you have to explain with the help of the blackboard so that children will easily understand it and they will be able to explain. So we have discussed the bank rate, repo rate, reverse repo rate. Another one is actually legal reserve ratio, LRR. What are the two components of LRR?
CRR and
Statutory liquidity
SLR.
ratio, cash reserve
Cash
ratio.
reserve ratio.
Yeah.
CS. Sorry. CR.
Statutory liquidity ratio and cash reserve ratio. These two together we call legal reserve ratio or LRR, SLR plus CR. What is the statutory liquidity ratio and what is this cash reserve ratio?
So amount kept in a commercial bank is known as statutory liquidity ratio.
Why
sir.
do they keep
amount
some
which
amount
reserved-
with them? Why do they keep some amount with them?
For liquidity purpose, sir, for
Yeah,
their
to meet
day-to-day
the day-to-day withdrawal. To make it
Yes.
little more simple, you can say commercial banks will keep a certain percentage of the deposits in order to meet the day-to-day withdrawal.
Yeah.
That with
Yes, sir.
themselves. That is what we call statutory liquidity ratio, and it is decided
Yes,
by
sir.
the RBI. What percentage should be SLR, that will be decided by the RBI. And what is cash reserve
Yes, sir.
ratio?
The reserve amount which kept with the RBI, sir, it is
Yeah.
known as cash
Yes,
reserve.
the portion of the deposits which the
And
commercial
also on
banks-
point, sir.
tell me.
Sir.
Tell me, sir.
Sir, actually, so students have confusion in this SLR and CRR. So I use one method to make them to clear shortcuts
sir.
to remember.
Please tell,
So
sir.
where more R is there, you just remember where more R is there, that amount will be kept with RBI.
Okay, very good, sir. Okay.
So
That will help,
CRR, double R is there. So you
Mm,
can to remember that they will not
Yeah,
have
yeah.
confusion.
Good, sir. Good,
like
good.
that, I want to share here.
Very
Thank
good,
you.
very good, very good, sir. Such techniques we can use so that low scorers, they will be able to recollect actually. Anyway, come back to the point. So a part of the deposits, commercial banks have to keep with RBI. That is what we call cash reserve ratio. Both together we call legal reserve ratio, LRR. What should we do with LRR during inflation and what should we do with LRR during deflation?
During inflation, yeah, LLR will increase.
Yes. During
In,
deflation, LRR has to
LRR
be increased. What will happen if LRR is increased, ma'am?
For the commercial bank, they want to deposit more in the central bank.
Ah.
So it will give low amount, loan amount to the people. So
Yeah.
people, they should not get borrowing. So
Yes,
money supply,
yes.
it will decrease.
Yes, yes, fantastic. Actually, a higher portion of the deposits are kept as reserve. So lending capacity of the bank will fall. Say, for example, you can explain it with the help of example. Suppose LRR is 10%. If 1 lakh deposit comes, 90,000 can be given as loan. But suppose LRR is raised to 20%, only 80,000 can be given as loan. So in this way, give examples to make it more clear to the children. Okay. During deflation, just opposite, LRR can be reduced. If LRR is
Sir,
reduced,
excuse me.
yes, sir.
So here if I used to tell the students to compare with MPC concept, so investment multiplier concept. So what in my perception I'm telling. So if already they understand that concept clearly now, I will tell them what how the increase in LRR or decrease in the LRR, how it will be like that. I will ask the question. So how the same thing what we learned in investment multiplier. If MPC is more now, consumption is more now, then multiply will be more. Consumption is less than multiply will be less. That's what we learned there. So as like that here also, if LRR is more means, so government, the commercial banks, they have to save more in RBI or with themselves. So due to this, they are unable to multiply the money. So unable to multiply the money, money will not reach to the economy, and obviously the inflation will be controlled. Like that, I will explain.
The inverse relationship children have to understand. Okay. Very good, sir. Okay. We can always go for comparisons with the previous knowledge actually in order to make the concepts clear to the children. Very good.
Sir,
Next,
this can also be related with the credit creation of commercial banks.
Yes, yes. Actually, these concepts they are learning in that chapter also.
Yes, sir.
Correct, no? This is nothing new for them. Already in money and banking chapter, these concepts are already learned
money
by
and
the
banking.
children. Okay. So what is the next one actually? It is open market operations. Correct, no? What is open market
Yes.
operations? What do you mean by open market operations?
Buying and
Purchase
selling of
and
government
sale of
securities.
shares.
Yes, buying and selling of
Buying and
government
selling the
securities.
securities.
What will the government do? Or actually this work is done by the RBI on behalf of the government. What will RBI do? during inflation? Will they buy or sell securities?
Sell. Sell.
They will sell securities. So that money from the people's hand will come to the government's hand. Money supply will fall, inflation will be controlled. Whereas during deflation, they will buy back. They will buy back the
Okay.
securities and give money to the public. Money supply will increase, consumption will increase, aggregate demand will increase. So if you have a look at all these things, you know, point you can tell the children to make it easy for them to remember. All of them will be increased to control inflation and reduced to control deflation. Am I right?
Yes,
Except
yes,
in the case
yes,
of
sir,
open
yes, sir.
market operations. See, bank rates, repo rate, reverse repo rate, legal reserve ratio, all are increased to control inflation and all are reduced to control deflation. So this effect to the children's mind so that that confusion while answering the question can be avoided. Okay. Now, these are all quantitative measures. In qualitative measures, only one is very important. What is that? Which one is more important in qualitative methods?
Margin
Moral
requirement.
Margin.
Margin
Margin
requirement.
requirement.
Yes, very good. What is this margin requirement?
So the security
explain?
amount which we have to give for. Sir,
Yeah. Tell me, sir.
so can I?
Yeah, please, sir.
Yes, sir. The security amount which we are pledging for getting a loan, it will be increased or decreased based upon the situation, sir. So margin,
Okay.
for example, if you need a 1 crore loan, now we have to pledge 80 lakhs or 50 lakhs of asset
Okay.
as shown as a security. So in inflation time, it will be more, and in deflation time, it will be less.
Very good, very good. Anybody else? We can approach it in a, yes, tell me.
Margin requirement is the difference between amount of loan and security offered.
Yeah, collateral, yeah. Suppose you are giving, say, gold collateral, gold as collateral security.
Yes, sir.
You know what is collateral security? You are giving gold as collateral security. The value of your gold is 1 lakh. The bank will not give you 1 lakh loan. Bank will say 20% is margin. It means if you are producing 1 lakh collateral, you will get only 80,000 as loan. So
Yes.
that difference is what is called a margin requirement. As ma'am rightly said, you know, the difference between the value of the collateral and the amount of loan advanced. The difference between the value of the collateral and the amount of loan advanced. But SAR has also said the same thing, but he approached it in a different angle. It's also right only. Okay. So this is what we call margin requirement. During inflation, margin requirement will be increased so that bank will be able to give lesser loan. For example, I am producing 1 lakh worth of gold. Margin requirement is 10% means I will get 90,000. If margin requirement is 20%, I'll get only 80,000. If it is 30%, I'll get only 70,000 as loan. So if margin requirement is increased, the amount of loan given will be lower. Naturally, money supply will be lower and inflation will be controlled. On the other hand, if margin requirement is lesser, more loan will be advanced, money supply will increase, consumption will increase, aggregate demand will increase, and the deflation will be minimized. So these are all quantitative measures and the qualitative measures in order to control inflationary gap and the deflationary gap. Can you tell me what are the fiscal measures that can be initiated?
Public borrowing, public spending, taxation.
How it can be used as a tool to control inflationary gap and deflationary gap?
During inflation, public spending should be reduced. During deflation, public spending will increase.
Very good, very good. Then what about taxation, ma'am?
During inflation, taxation will be increased. During deflation, taxation will be low.
Excellent. That's all. That is actually fiscal policy, right? See what the government will do if it is inflationary situation, government has to collect more taxes so that disposable income of the people will fall. consumption will fall, aggregate demand will fall, inflation will be controlled. During deflation, government has to reduce tax. When government reduces tax, disposable income of the people will increase. Consumption will increase, aggregate demand will increase, deflation will be reduced. Same thing we can tell about public expenditure. During inflation, government has to reduce expenditure. So when government reduces expenditure, people's income will fall, because we know governmental expenditure is people's income. Government's expenditure is people's income. So people's income will fall, consumption will fall, and aggregate demand will fall. Just opposite, during deflation, government has to spend more. When government spend more, we know that income of the people will increase, because government's expenditure is people's income. Consumption will increase, aggregate demand will increase, and deflation will be controlled. This is what Keynes said Western countries to do during the time of depression. Depression is an extreme form of deflation, actually. That is why Keynes advocated you try to spend more. Government can borrow, government can spend. When government spends, what will happen? People's income will increase. When people's income increases, consumption will increase. When consumption increases, aggregate demand will increase. When aggregate demand increases, production will increase. When production increases, employment will be increased. When employment increases, income will increase. So this will become a positive cycle and will take the country to development. So which budget can be advised during inflation? Which budget can
Deficit
be
budget.
advised?
Budget, sir.
Inflation.
Deficit, sir.
Inflation time. Deficit budget means government is spending more and collecting less. Correct, no? Inflation,
Yes,
which
sir.
budget is better?
Surplus budget, sir.
Surplus budget is better during inflation. If you want to control inflation, you should go with the surplus budget. But if you want to, if it is deflation, you have to go with the deficit budget. Is inflation good or bad for the economy?
Good.
Slight increase
inflation
in
is
price
good.
is appreciable.
Okay.
Yes, excellent.
Economy
A
is
controllable inflation rate, is always advisable for a developing country like India, because inflation is nothing but higher aggregate demand. Higher aggregate demand will stimulate production. And when production increases, employment will be generated. When employment is generated, income will be generated. So we will be in a positive, we say, we will be in a virtuous cycle of development. So slight inflation is always good for the economic progress of a country. Is deficit financing inflationary in nature? A question in board exam. Is deficit financing inflationary in nature? Explain.
Yes.
Yeah. Why? How?
Deficit financing will lead to increase in income to the people through government investment. So it will lead to increase in aggregate demand, and in turn it will bring about an inflationary pressure on the economy.
Very good. That's all. Say deficit financing means government is collecting less, spending more. Correct now. Collecting less means disposable income will increase. Spending more means again people's income will increase, because government expenditure is people's income. So as a result of that, consumption will increase, aggregate demand will increase. If supply doesn't increase along with that, the country will face inflation. Just a minute. If you have any doubt,
Sir, excuse.
yes, sir, please.
Sir, I have a doubt in qualitative measures, sir. So there are two more points,
Yes,
moral
sir.
suasion
Actually,
and
moral
credit
suasion
suasion.
is there. But in CBSE syllabus, you know, they have given mostly only about margin requirements. It's there
Margin,
as you are telling, you know, direct action, then direct action, moral suasion, all these are coming actually.
yes,
But
sir.
in the CBSE syllabus, they have mentioned only margin requirements. That's why I just
Okay,
limited
sir.
to it. And
Okay, sir.
nothing
I
to
just have
explain.
a,
Yeah, it's there. You can explain to your children, you know, moral suasion means.
no, sir, I have a doubt on that, sir. I need
tell
your
me.
suggestions.
Tell me, sir, tell me.
So what I understand, both moral suasion and the credit rationing seems same, sir. So whenever I'm explaining, so
Moral
the
suasion
students,
and
they, the credit rationing,
credit creation.
credit
Credit
Ratio.
rationing. Okay,
Ratio.
okay.
rationing, yes, sir.
Okay.
So both these
Sir,
points are
actually,
seen.
I will tell you,
Yes.
please listen.
sir.
Moral suasion means RBI will advise commercial banks to follow some guidelines regarding lending, to whom money has to be given as loan, how much has to be given to different categories of borrowers. RBI will issue some guidelines and RBI will advise the commercial banks, "Hey, it is better to follow these things, man. Please try to follow." Say, for example, country is in inflation. RBI can give an advice. You please restrict the amount of loan given to such and such categories of people. This is what we call moral suasion. It is purely advisory. RBI
Okay,
will issue some guidelines and RBI will advise the commercial banks to follow those guidelines. The guidelines are issued as per the present economic situation. If it is inflation, the guidelines will be different. If it is deflation, the guidelines will be different. This is moral suasion. Is that clear, sir?
Okay. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Rationing means rationing is introduced only during deflation. RBI fixes the maximum quantity of loan that can be given to different categories of borrowers. Say, for example, home loan. At the most, you give only 50 lakhs, RBI says. So no commercial bank can give more than 50 lakhs as home loan. Or loan to farmers for buying agricultural equipment. RBI says at the most you give only 5 lakhs. So less than 5 lakhs only the commercial banks can give. This is called rationing, credit rationing. You know, rationing actually means fixing the maximum quantity. Ration shops, you know, they give us only 2 kg of sugar and 20 kg of rice. If you ask 100 kg of rice, they will not give because they say that is your ceiling. You can't get more than that. It is rationing. So rationing means fixing the quota, fixing the maximum, which can be advanced as loan to different categories of people. Apart from these two, we have one more, direct action. Direct action means suppose commercial banks do not follow the guidelines issued by the RBI, RBI can take action against that bank. RBI can even cancel the license of the bank. This is called direct action. So all these are coming under qualitative methods. Okay, direct action, moral suasion.
Oh, now clear, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Anything else, teachers? We have another 5 more minutes. If you have any doubts regarding this chapter, you may ask. Deriving supply curve, saving curve from consumption curve from saving curve and all are known to you. Am I right? How to derive saving curve?
Yes, sir. That's clear.
How to derive consumption curve from saving curve? That is also important. I don't want to go on to it because the time is a problem now. Only 5 minutes left out. You may ask if any other doubt is there, or if you want to add on. That's also important. You want to add on, you want to supplement. You can speak now for the next 5 minutes. Come on. If you have any doubt, you ask, we will discuss it. Or if you want to add on something, some additional information, you can come forward.
So thinking.
Tell, sir. So this chapter is not a tough chapter at all. It's a very, very easy chapter. Revision time, you can concentrate only in some 4 concepts. Revision time, ADAS, you make them thorough. S and I, you make them thorough. Both are related, actually, very easy for them to learn. Keynesian multiplier, you make them thorough. And this inflationary gap and the deflationary gap. That's all. The other things are all connected. These 4 concepts, if the children are thorough, this chapter is completed. Revision time, we can mainly concentrate on this. We have to keep on teaching them equilibrium level of income determination by ADAS approach. And from there, we can come to S is equal to I approach. Both are actually related. Then we can go on to the multiplier concept. Give them a lot of practice in multiplier concept. Let them do. You give them homework or assignment. Give different MPC and different delta I. Let them prepare the schedule. Let them come to the class. Let them present it. Each one, let him or her present it with the help of the blackboard. Children will do it with a lot of interest, actually. Then this inflationary gap, deflationary gap, very simple concept. How to correct it? Very simple, because 2 times they are learning it. Already it is there in the chapter Money and Banking. So they will find it very easy. So 12 marks can be easily scored by the children. And when you are preparing the children for this particular chapter, after the completion of the chapter, take a collection of the board exam questions from this chapter. Where will you get the previous year board exam questions, teachers? You want to get previous year board exam question papers.
Yes,
Where
sir.
will you get it?
Sir,
I'll
I
show
don't know
you.
the exact website.
I will show you a website.
Yes, sir.
Just a minute. Just go to the Google and type examination materials. So if you type examination materials, the first one, CBSE examination materials, you will see. See, right from 2013, board question papers along with their marking scheme. That is also important. Please go through the marking scheme issued by CBSE so that you will get an idea. How many of you have gone for board correction? Have you gone for board evaluation?
No, sir.
No, sir, myself, no.
Okay. If you get an
Sir,
opportunity.
last year I went for term 2 correction.
Very
sir.
good, very good. If you get an opportunity to go for, it's actually a valuable learning area. We learn how answers have to be presented and try to go through the board. Am I audible, teachers?
Yes, sir.
Try to go through the board marking scheme. That marking scheme will give you an idea of how the answers have to be prepared. You see, compartment question paper for compartment examination 2020 up to 2020 only they have updated. They will be updating. The latest one we can collect even from the various WhatsApp groups. See, class 10, class 12, if you go like this, the subject will come. You can select the subject, go on to it. Advantage is, different regions question paper will be available. Delhi region, Madras region, different regions question papers will be available. And marking scheme also is available. So please note down this website actually. No difficulty at all. Just in the Google, you type examination materials. That's all. Okay. So previous year question papers, macroeconomics, it has been there for several years. So previous will be of immense use to you. Collect those question papers and chapter wise, you prepare a question bank. Discuss in the class. That will help the children to prepare very well. Anything else, teachers?
Sir, can we download as a PDF or from this
You can
website, sir?
download. Yeah.
Oh.
You can download. It will be PDF files. You want me to show it?
Okay.
See,
No,
for
I'll
example,
try.
Okay. It will come as a zip file. It will get downloaded as zip file. You can later open the zip file. You will find the PDF.
Okay, sir. Okay.
So this is one useful website. All old question papers can be collected from here. Okay.